Already we have 13 people. Okay. So, first of all, I'm gonna start, and well, the first announcement that I have to make is that if anybody has any questions or any doubts about your grade from the first partial, you need to contact me directly. Okay, you can ask Jocelyn my phone number, and I have absolutely no problem whatsoever. Um, yeah, like solving your doubts and solving any information that you may require. Okay, there will be some activities online through Moodle. Okay, so I'm gonna basically start uploading some of the activities in your second partial blog in your Moodle account, so please follow that up carefully. All right, so already we're 18 already, we're more than half, so we're gonna begin. Today we start the second interim, the second partial, all holy. She said we need it out in our book and the images just okay, perfect. All right, so the title that you're gonna write in your notebook, okay, for the second partial is the law of supply and demand. Now, we have already talked about it a little bit in CTCV. I know you have already forgotten everything, but we're going to review it. If some of this information seems or sounds a little bit familiar, is because we've talked about it. Okay, we've talked about the reasons why the dollar to peso changes, especially during these days. I mean, it's very sad to see the situation. If you check right now, the dollar to peso exchange rate and the dollar to euro exchange rate is rising. Is really sad, that situation. The dollar, I think right now, somebody please check, I think it's 24 already, 24 pesos to for $1, and I think we're going to 26 pesos per euro, per euro. Okay, so I think I think things are gonna get pretty ugly. Okay, some of my friends that are back in Peru, that the ones that are independent, the ones that have their little businesses, they're actually going out of business. Okay, so this situation has brought a lot of yeah, like a lot of downhill. It's gonna bring everything downhill. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna write what is the supply and the demand law. We call it law, and many, like very few things can be called as law, because remember, law is something that is always and constantly never changing. Okay, like the law of gravity, or like the law of the Newton's law of cooling systems. Okay, it's always going to be the same. Okay, so law means that it's always going to be the same. It's always, at any circumstances, going to result in the same outcome. So we're going to call it the law of supply and demand for competitive markets. Remember, economics is the science. First partial was putting it clear that neoliberalists or liberalists want a market that regulates itself by itself, with no absolute help from the government. And from the on the other side, the communist people or the Keynesian people, they propose a model in economics that include the intervention, a high intervention of the state in what refers to welfare policy or subsidies, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So yes, hi everybody. So the law of supply and demand. Okay, we're gonna write it first, and then we're gonna explain it with the graphics. All right, so I'm gonna put you down a little, and please, we are going to write this. All right, so first is the law of demand, and then we're gonna see the law of supply. So write in your notebook, please. We're gonna refer to the law of demand. Ceteris paribus, this is a Latin term that means all variables remain the same. Okay, let's say, or let's use ceteris paribus in another context. For example, ceteris paribus, I will be meeting with you online until April 3rd. That means that all things remaining equal, we're going to keep on seeing and meeting online for advancing in the contents of the class. Okay, so ceteris paribus means that all variables remain the same. Let's go back to the law of demand. Ceteris paribus, the quantity demanded by whom? By the consumers in a competitive market. The quantity demanded diminishes as the price rises. Okay? The quantity demanded diminishes as the price rises. We are writing in our notebooks, please. Law of supply, ceteris paribus, all variables. The quantity of supplied goods. What goods? Strawberries, tangerines, cars, pianos, notebooks, computers, cell phones, whatever goods, okay? The quantity of supplied goods rises as the price rises. So we can say that in the law of demand, the quantity demanded diminishes as the price rises. And in the law of supply here, and the demand behaves in an inversely proportional way. And the supply law behaves in a conversely way. That means they rise as the other one rises. And here in the demand, wait it out. Let me read it for the last time. Okay, the law of demand is ceteris paribus. The quantity demanded diminishes as the price rises. And in the law of supply, ceteris paribus, the quantity of supply goods rises as the price rises. I know this is a little bit confusing, but now that we're gonna graph the curves, you're gonna have it more clearly. Okay, so please screenshot this if you haven't gotten it down yet. And we're gonna move up to the curves. All right, so let me see what you're saying. Santiago, I owe you a pinching, okay? So look at here. We're going to graph the x-axis and the y-axis. On the y-axis, we're going to write the price, meaning that the center or the vertex is going to be 0, and then $1, $2 is going to rise up to infinite value, okay? So we're going to have from, as in the mathematics curves, we're going to have the 0 here in the center, and as we go up, now, from the center here in the x-axis, we're going to have the quantity. So being at the center means 0 quantity of strawberries, 0 quantity of pianos, of cars, of whatever goods that you're selling. And as we go to the right, because we are in a Western society, is going to rise. So being at the center means 0 things sold or bought or brought or whatever. And going to the right is going to mean more. 10 cars, 100 cars, 1,000 cars. All right? So having that clear, we said that in the y-axis, we have the price. In the x-axis, we have the quantity. Now, how are we going to draw the curves? Okay, we're going to go with the demand first. We said that the quantity demanded diminishes. Okay, the quantity demanded diminishes, and you can see precisely that the curve goes down as the price rises. Okay, so as we go up the curve, like if you were to have your finger glued to that curve, okay, as you go up in price, that means that if you are going up in price, the curve is moving to the left, right? So we have less things if the price rises. This curve here draws how the consumer behaves, okay? So the demand curve is showing you graphically how the consumer behaves. The consumer, and that's pretty simple, that's pretty logical. Do not get confused with the terms, okay? So this is pretty logical. As a price goes up, do I, as a customer, want to buy more or less? Obviously, I want to buy less, okay? If the trips right now are very cheap, I want to buy more trips. I want to buy more airfares. If all of a sudden something goes on sale, let's say pants, okay, in any change of season, in whatever store, H&M or Zara or whatever. Okay, you go, and in the change of season, a lot of things go in sale. They are 50% off or 30% off. So as things go cheaper, I, as a consumer, want to buy more. As the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes to the right. Okay. Just imagine that you had your finger glued to that. Imagine that this is like a little rail, like if your finger was a train and this is unchangeable. So as the price goes up, you are forced to move your finger to the left. Left in the x axis means less, right in the x axis means more. But look at the curve, it goes inversely. So as the price goes down, I want to buy more of something. If some pants that I see on sale are 400 pesos and its original price is 1,200 pesos, obviously I'm motivated, I'm encouraged to buy more if things are cheaper. All right, so that's how the consumer behaves. Now let's go with the supply. Okay, the supply is this one. You cannot distinguish it very well because of the blurriness, but this is blue. This is a blue curve. Okay, the law of supply states that ceteris paribus, the quantity of supply goods rises, the quantity rises as the price rises. This draws how the provider, the seller, the business is going to behave. And it's very logical too. If you're telling me that I'm all of the sudden selling World Cup Mexican football t shirts, okay? And you're telling me that for the World Cup, is going to raise in price, then obviously I want to sell more. This draws how the provider, how the seller is going to behave. Obviously, if you're telling me that I'm going to weigh more and that things are going to be more valuable, then my incentive, I'm motivated to sell more. Doesn't mean that I'm selling more, but I'm motivated to sell more. All right? So look at it. The neoliberalist thought and the school of thought is stating that the market regulates itself. They say, they totally assure that if you let the market behave in a very free way, then the supply and the demand are going to coordinate so perfectly that we're going to find an equilibrium point. That point precisely where the two curves intersect, that's called the equilibrium point. All right? This point is called the equilibrium point, where demand and supply meet. That's called the equilibrium point. So that means that here in this point, let's say we have $10 per 1 kilogram of, let's say, I don't know, like M&Ms. Okay. 1 kilogram of M&Ms by the market regulation of itself is going to find an equilibrium, and people are going to sell it at $10 and they're going to buy it at $10 perfectly. Okay. One example of this regulation by itself, like the invisible hand, is whenever you go to Obregón or to some sort of market where you have, let's say, a sports store, and then you have like 15 other sports stores, and you want to buy goggles for swimming. And so you go and you ask in the first store, and they tell you these specific your googles that you want to buy for swimming are worth 250 pesos from a specific brand, from a specific model, etc. Okay, you go to the next one so that you can compare, and they tell you exactly the same. It's worth 250 pesos. You go to the next store and they're like, it's 240. You go to the next store and it's 260. As you can see, nobody is going to adventure to set a price at a very high standard when you have so much competition around you that is telling you that is telling the consumer that the real price, the equilibrium price, is not that one. Okay, so if anybody says it's worth 300 pesos, that means that the consumer is not going to buy it because it's not at the equilibrium point. That means that seller is going to be forced to lower his price because otherwise he's not going to sell anything. Okay, so when we think about that, it's true. Adam Smith, David Ricardo, and all the liberalist theories of economics, they were actually right. I mean, the market regulates itself. It's not so hard to see it. It's not so hard to understand it. Okay, so we have these and we have these. All right. This is how the supply is how the sellers behave. The demand is how the consumer behaves. Okay, this is pretty simple. Now we're gonna see what things shift the curve. Okay, what things shift the curve. If there are no of these factors, then we're gonna move around. Okay, we're gonna move around the curve. For example, ceteris paribus. Let's say what things are going here. Imagine, okay, right now. Let's see the example of antibacterial gel. Okay, all of a sudden, because of the coronavirus, everybody is buying antibacterial gel. Okay, so it's too soon to say that factors have shifted. So I am not shifting the curve. I am moving along the curve. So let's look from the side of the demand, okay? The consumers, us. We want to buy, okay? We want to buy more antibacterial gel, okay? So if we want to buy more, we're going to the curve to the right. Here's the quantity. So we want to buy more. But what happens? Okay, what happens? The the curve is not shifting and the price is supposed to go down. However, although my demand should provide to the system that it would go down, what are sellers doing? Sellers are saying, hey, there's a raise in demand. So that means that people want more. And so the curve, the point moves along the curve and they raise the price. Okay. And this is what's going on right now. People that sell antibacterial gel are raising the prices. Why? Because there is a shift in the demand. People are wanting more. They're wanting more, but they're not giving more. So if we think about it, okay, we're going to raise this a little bit. Where these points meet, this area under the two curves are going to give me all the people that are not going to be able to buy antibacterial gel, either because they do not have enough money for spending or because they just couldn't find it. Okay? These are not meeting. And so the time elapsing from the crisis breaking out to right now, it hasn't given enough time for the consumers to adapt to the new prices, and it hasn't given enough time to the sellers to adapt to the new prices. So all the area under the curve means all the people that are not going to buy are not going to get to buy what they want. Is demand that has not been met, okay? Because we are not producing enough, and the people that are selling it at a more price than the people can afford. So a lot of people is going to stay without buying antibacterial gel just because of this crisis, okay? Now, we're going to see how that's an example of how you move along the curve. But now there are other many things that you do not move along the curve, okay? you actually shift the whole curve. Okay, so let's see what shifts the whole curve. And that I need you to pull out from your cell phone the two images that I just sent you. Okay, the two that look the same. All right, one is called the factors that increase and that decrease supply. Okay, so I need you to look at that one. Is these ones? I don't know if you can see these. Um, this one, the first one, oh, you can see it. Let's go to the one that says factors that increase supply. There. Okay, factors that increase supply. You actually can see these in, oh, just, no, doesn't adapt. Well, you know which one it is, right? No, you can see it. But okay, so please get to this one, please. So factors that increase supply. Please find that image in your cell phone. Factors that increase supply. So factors that increase supplies means that the whole curve, okay, the supply curve is going to shift to the right. The whole curve goes to the right. What makes the whole curve goes to the right? The first one that it says here is favorable natural conditions for production. So let's say that year you're a producer of strawberries and well, the weather was very favorable to you. And so your production of strawberries increases. So that means there's going to be more strawberries supply to the market. Okay, supply to the market. Now, another one, a fall in input prices. Let's say that I'm doing frappuccinos, okay, frappes, coffee. And all of a sudden, because of some conditions that are not under my control, okay, the coffee, the input, just falls in price. People, providers are selling coffee in a very at a very low price. So that means that my incentive to provide more or produce more of what I do increases. Okay. Then improved technology. Let's go back to the example of the strawberries. It's not the same to cultivate strawberries at a very traditional way than with machinery and with new technology and with pesticides and with, I don't know, some robots, drones, computers, and etc. Okay, so my production of strawberries is going to increase, and I, as a provider, as a seller, I'm going to be more motivated. I'm going to be encouraged by the system or by the conditions to provide more. So whenever there's a switch, there's a change in providing more, okay, providing much more of a product and putting it into the market, that means that the curve shifts to the right. And then lower product taxes. Okay, the government may also influence in this. I am pretty sure that if the government takes away or puts more tariffs or taxes on some good or service, obviously that changes the incentive that the producers or the sellers have to provide into the market a new good or a new service. Okay, that's pretty simple. All right. And then let's go to the right, and it says factors that decrease supply. It adjusted a minute ago, and now, oh, there. Factors that decrease supply. All right. And so it says poor natural conditions, the same thing, but backwards. Okay. Let's say that we didn't have a good raining season. We, on the opposite side, we have a drought. And so, well, all my fields are not flourishing, and that gives me in the, okay. So a rise in input prices. Let's say that for some reason, milk and dairy products just raise in price by my providers. So I provide other chain of consumers, I have to be forced to raise my price. Okay, a decline in technology, not common. Maybe a software that just collapsed. Okay, or some copyrighted technology that they take away, and that takes away from me some sort of kind of technology, and that makes me to get out of business. Okay, so that anything that influences the provider of any good or service to diminish their provision, that means that the curve is going to shift, but to the left. Okay, and higher product taxes, whenever they tax my product in a more yeah, like um, that's why, for example, the labor market is so deplorable here in Mexico, because the government makes the business makers, or the great enterprises, or the little independent businesses, to provide so much to the employees, that some of the businesses just have their people not even in the budget. They don't pay them. Okay, they just like give them some money. Um uh they're not in the system for the SAT. Okay, because it's just so expensive. All the benefits that employees have here in under Mexican law provide some ideal good conditions for the employees, but some employers cannot pay that much money to their employees, and that makes the labor market go up and down. Okay, so these any type of these factors that we have that decrease the number of things that I, as a provider, put into the market, makes the whole curve shifts to the right. Okay, so let's put it here. For example, okay, we have the supply curve, which is this one. This is how providers, sellers, stores behave. So whenever I have an increase in technology, then the whole curve is going to move to the right. If, on the contrary, I have a change in price of an input product, that is going to diminish my capability of providing the market with more goods and services, then the curve is going to shift to the left. All right. Not so with very little time elapsed from changing conditions, like the example of the antibacterial gel. It's very little time that has elapsed from day one to day two, and from changing conditions. So that means that whenever, for this contingency coronavirus stuff, the point is going to move along the curve. It's not going to shift the whole curve. All right. And finally, okay, we're gonna go to the supply, please. Okay, so we're gonna go to this other graphic. It says factors that increase demand. Okay, now let's go to the other curve. Okay, and factors that increase demand. This is also affecting the curve. The whole curve is going to move. All right. So taste shift to greater popularity. There are things that go in a style, there are things that go out of a style. Like, for example, flare pants. Flare pants were like a boom in the 90s, and now they're not anymore. Tube pants, boot cut pants, anything that goes into a style and then goes out of a style. Another thing, taste shift example is the what's it called? The straws in beverages. Okay, right now, because of this campaign that has been going on for saving the turtles and saving the planet, so we're reducing our consumption of plastics and obviously straws, because we have been we have been made aware of the damage that they cause. So you go to any restaurant and nobody anymore gives you straws, right? It's very, very difficult to find a business that gives you straw. So that changing taste is affecting directly the straw makers and the plastic makers. I mean, they're at the other end of the chain of supply, and well, it's affecting them. It's for a greater good, saving the planet. But it doesn't mean that it's not affecting them. Some of these people may go out of business. Okay. So population likely to buy rises. um, People are more willing to buy gifts, for example, seasonally, in Valentine's Day, in Mother's Day, in Christmas. Okay. People are more prone, they're more available, they're more willing to buy toys in these 3 dates. Okay. Income rises if in a government within a country, the policy for the labor market establishes that the salary goes up, then obviously people are going to increase their power parity, their acquisition power parity, and that means that they're gonna will have more money to spend. That's shifting the demand. Another one is price of substitute rises. Okay. For example, my substitution of, let's say, Splenda. Okay, Splenda is a substitute for sugar. So if one rises, the other one is rising as well. Okay, because they're substitute, they have to go side by side. Okay, that's what liberalist people meant with that the market regulates itself. Okay, price of complement falls. For example, let's say you sell um, accessories for some kind of cell phone or computer. Imagine if I used to sell iPod covers. Well, in the very single minute that the iPod just went out of style, that means that my business went out of style, and so my demand curve shifts. Okay, this is how the demand changes. Okay, my way of buying. So the demand curve talks about the buyers, and the supply curve is going to describe how sellers behave. So another thing that is going to shape my demand curve is future expectations. That's why people are right now warning other people, do not panic. Do not panic and go to Costco or go to your local store and just buy everything that you're going to need for like a 40-day quarantine. Because it's not like that. I mean, we have to stay home. We can go out specifically for buying stuff, but the reality is that if I encourage people to go in a collective hysteria, then the economy, the whole economy is just going to collapse. Okay. And the only ones that are going to be hurt is going to be the Mexicans or whatever we're talking about. All right. And what moves finally? What moves the curve to the left? What moves the demand curve to the left? And that means go down in prices, as you can see. Okay. Taste shift of lesser popularity, exactly the opposite. Population likely to buy drops. Income drops if people are going through a crisis. Let's say if we go to a recession, that incentives people to not buy anymore. Okay. So that is pretty simple. People do not have enough money. So basically, we're going to have like a second January recession again. Price of substitute falls, price of complement rises, and future expectations discourage buying. Okay, if the next iPhone goes out and everybody starts talking about it and saying that this iPhone is just sucks because all the iPhones that were the first launch sucked, and you have to wait for the iPhone blah 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 S or the iPhone blah 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 Plus or whatever, and you have to wait, then that disencourages the consumer to buy that good. Okay, so many of the campaigns that go out in advertising, we have because the time is almost over, but let's recapitulate. Okay, so let's see. We saw the law of demand and supply. We stated that ceteris paribus means all things remain the same, and that here, okay, the law of demand is the quantity demanded diminishes and the price rises. And the law of supply establishes that ceteris paribus, the quantity of supply goods rises as the price rises. So they're conversely, they go up, they go up. And here's how you draw the supply and the demand curve. Okay. So here we have the supply, and here we have the demand. When in the very point where these two meet, this is called equilibrium. Equilibrium point. Okay, and we have seen that in very short times of changing of any factor or variable, the point of the equilibrium has to move until it finds its own equilibrium because the market regulates itself. Now, on the contrary, when a lot of time has passed and many factors, significant factors, have changed, you do not move along the curve, you shift the whole curve. And we have seen in these two graphics that Jocelyn has sent you how or what factors are those, the ones that shift the curve. All right. So this has been it for today. I know, guys, that this is pretty difficult. It requires a lot of effort. So I really thank you, all the 21 of you that are logged in. Um, and we'll see you tomorrow for more stuff about the law of supply and demand. Any doubt that you have about your grade, I've already told you. Please contact Jocelyn if you don't have my direct number. And if you do, just go ahead and contact me directly. Okay. Love you guys. See you tomorrow at the same time and be safe. Bye bye, guys.